the Universal Orlando app has added some Epic Universe functions.
Yes, they added the map to the app, which you can, if you update the app, you can see it in there now. And that, they got previews going on, so you can use that. And you can also see points of interest in there. They've also added the map for the interactive wand experiences.
Yeah, which we'll talk about in a minute.
Which we'll talk about, but that's in there as well. And then an interesting thing that is in there that has a lot of people wondering what it means is on the lands themselves, you can see where it says virtual line, but it's like grayed out.
You mean the attractions?
No, the lands themselves.
Oh, okay.
It shows like Super Nintendo World, and below it is like, it shows virtual line.
Oh,
and
not the...
So some people were like, does this mean there's going to be virtual queues to get into each of these lands? Now, I don't think that's the case.
Okay.
What I think it is, and part of the reason I say that is because we already know there's going to be early park access for those staying on property. Part of that is Super Nintendo World, and it's part of Celestial Park. If you're in part early access, you're not going to have to get into a virtual queue to get in because that's part of your early access perk.
Yeah.
I think all it really is, if a land hits capacity, it's going to, nobody else is let in, then that land will go into virtual queue mode, and then you sign up for virtual queue, and then once enough people leave, then maybe your number, however they handle it, your number of boarding groups called, then you're able to go in. I don't think you're having a scenario where you show up and each land you want to go into, you got to hop into a virtual queue. I just don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think that would be a good guest experience, and it makes way more sense that you would just use it if a land hits capacity, because they did, they've had this issue at the Wizarding Worlds before. Super Nintendo World in Hollywood also has had hit capacity, so it is something that can happen. Obviously, with a brand new theme park, you got all new lands everywhere, but I could see like Super Nintendo World hitting capacity potentially, things like that. So I think that's how it's going to be used. I don't think you're going to have to get into a virtual queue for each and every land. I just think it's going to be, if the lands hit capacity, it goes into virtual queue mode.
Well, it makes sense if they're heading that in right now, anticipating the first opening, section, like time, or everyone's going to be like, okay, we got to check out this land, and it's just really busy from the onset.
Yeah, and it's good to have it there if you need it. I was on a live stream with Theme Park Conductor last Saturday on his channel, and he said out in Hollywood, because he's out in California, he said out in Hollywood how they handled basic capacity was essentially they would pull a fire alarm and escort everybody out, and then let more people in, which is not the most that's not the most, I would say, optimal way to handle the crowds that way.
That's crazy.
So I think a virtual queue system makes sense. Now the question comes as well, like, is there going to be time limits? Like, I have a hard time thinking that. Perhaps during previews, we've seen that during previews before, where certain lands will say, okay, you got like 2 hours. And I think it was Toy Story Land or something like that. You got like a wristband, and then you only had a limited amount of time, then you had to leave to allow more people to go in and see that. So they could do that during previews. On when it's actually running and operating on its first day, if I were to guess, I don't think that's going to be the case. I think that'll just be like a backup plan if they need it, because I'm sure they've got multiple scenarios that they've thought about which could happen, because opening day is just going to be, we haven't had a brand new theme park in this level open in over 20 years, so a lot of unknowns.
Yeah.
But if I were to guess, so some people I saw online were like, no, and if they do a virtual queue for each land, I'm not going to like it. I really won't. And if they do it that way, I really hope it's for a very, very limited amount of time that they do it.
Yeah.
If they were, because we've seen it with attractions. But if I were to guess, I don't think that'll be the case. I think it'll just be as an as-needed basis.
Okay. All right.
And if I'm wrong, then don't listen to me.
Okay.
So the construction is definitely wrapping up. And yeah, I mean, it's definitely the final stretch. We're just a few months away from it opening. So it's getting into very interesting territory here. I'm sure we're going to hear, I would guess this month, we're going to hear a ton of things from Universal about specifics about Express Pass offerings, single day tickets, like all the questions people have about some of the things that haven't been answered. I'm sure they will be answered very soon as people, are getting ready to go.